Hello everyone, my name is Kathy Grab and I am one of the administrators, one of the vice principals here at the DLC. Today we bring you, in our virtual field trip series, Firefighting and First Responding in a small rural community. You will have a chance to learn about what it means to be a firefighter and a first responder in a small rural town. Some of the things that you will learn today also apply to firefighters and first responders in the cities as well. We'll look at what everyone does, the equipment, some safety tips, and a few other things. I would like to introduce you to Les Kruger. He's the fire chief of the Rosedale Fire Department. So Les, how long have you been doing this?
Well, I started as a volunteer firefighter about 38 years ago now, maybe a little more. I had retired back in 2014, but then came back in to service in 2015.
Wow, that's a long time, and you do such a great job. You know, Les is my husband, so I have a small understanding from a wife's point of view what is involved with all of this. What I might suggest you do is write down some questions that you might have, because there will be a question and answer segment at the end of this presentation. I might have some questions in between the video segments, but I'm sure you can come up with even better ones than me. So let's get started. Les and I might be sitting at home watching TV or out in the yard, and then Les will get a text from the 911 dispatch in Prince Albert telling him that there is a fire or someone needs medical attention somewhere in the community. So when this happens, he'll say, "Kath, I gotta go." And I know where he's heading. Depending on what the call is, he'll contact the other firefighters and first responders, and they will all head to the fire hall too. And when they arrive, they spring into action. So let's take a look at the first video segment called "What Do Firefighters Do?" and we'll continue our chat after this next segment.
So my name is Les Kruger. I am the fire chief of the Hanley Rosedale Fire Department. I am also a first responder. Out of our fire hall, we run the fire department and the first responder group. Not every firefighter is a first responder. Currently, we're working at getting another 5 people trained as first responders. Currently, we have 4, and we'll have an additional 5 hopefully in the very near future. So at our fire department, we have about 12 to 15 active members that come on calls with us. Some calls we have 2, 3, sometimes we have 8 or need all people. Depends on the size of the fire and how many people are available. We are all volunteers, so we don't have to be at every call. We don't have to stay at home. But when we get a call, if we're able, we're expected to come down and do what we do. So when we do get a call, we're dispatched out of Prince Albert. So all fire departments in Saskatchewan are dispatched out of Prince Albert. When we get that dispatch, it comes through as a text and a phone call on our cell phones. When we get that text, we come down to the fire hall and we get ready. We put on whatever gear we need. If it's a medical call, we just go as we're dressed in our normal clothes. If it's a fire call, we'll put on our turnout gear or coveralls, whatever we need, any safety gear, and then we will decide who is taking which vehicles and what job everybody is expected to do on that call. So we go on about 5 or 6 different types of calls here. The most common calls are medical calls. We do about 30 medical calls a year, sometimes more, sometimes less. But on the medical calls, we only take the rescue van, and we only need 2 or 3 first responders to come with us on those calls, usually. The next type of call we go on is grass and stubble fires. So grass fires can be very big, they can be very small. Sometimes we need just 1 truck, sometimes we need all 3 trucks. So it varies from call to call. And then when we go on grass fires, if we need more water, We phone either neighboring fire departments to bring more water or farmers with water tanks on their big trucks. The next type of call we go on is MVCs, motor vehicle collisions. So motor vehicle collisions can be very hard to judge. If there's injuries, we need first responders and firefighters. If the vehicle needs to be, if the patients need to be extricated and the vehicle cut apart or the doors pried open, the firefighters have to do that. The first responders take care of the patient's injuries. And then we also, if it's on the highway, we have to do traffic control. So when we go on some of the medical calls that we go on, when we go on a medical call, we are there just to provide as much help as we can give, assessment, a patient assessment, help the patient as much as we can until the ambulance arrives. So right in the town of Hanley, our ambulance service comes out of Saskatoon, but we also have in our district Davidson and Outlook. So we might work with paramedics from Saskatoon, Outlook, or Davidson on each call. If there's a serious injury at an accident or a serious medical call, they may send STARS Air Ambulance. So the big STARS helicopter will come, and STARS stands for Shock Trauma Air Rescue Services. So when they send STARS out, we also have to set up a safe landing zone for STARS. So we have communication with the helicopter. We decide where it's safe for them to land. We give them what information they need to know as far as wind speed, wind direction, if there's any power lines close by, those types of things. When they land, then we help those paramedics come to the scene and take care of that. So those are some of the different types of calls that we go on. We also do what's called mutual aid. So mutual aid is when there's a very big fire or more help is needed with a neighboring fire department. So if Kennison, for example, has a big fire, they will call and ask us to come and help with mutual aid. So we'll come with whatever equipment they've asked us to bring and extra help. And if we have a big fire, we'll call them to come and help. So those are some of the things that we do. So what happens when you need help? So the first thing you do is phone 911. When you phone 911, the operator will come on, ask what the emergency is. They'll ask your name and where you are. So you need to know your address. If you're on a farm, you need to know your land location and the name of your farm or the name of your parents' farm. While you're talking with the operator on 911, they will be already contacting us. So while you're talking with them, we're already on our way down to the fire hall. We're getting into our vehicles and we're coming to help. So that's typically what happens. So the best thing that you need to do is when there's an emergency, phone 911. That's the quickest way to get help.
Wow, I didn't know all of that. I find that very, very interesting. And you guys do such great work always. You know, you mentioned that you're training more firefighters, and I understand that at your last practice, there were 3 women. Are these some of the new people that are joining you? And also, how many women are typically in a fire department?
Well, I mean, every community is going to be different. There's going to be different members from the community, and we do have a lot of women on our fire department. We currently have 5. One of which is currently with us is a paramedic, and one of the other ones is a medical first responder, and then the other 3 are going to be taking their training to become medical first responders as well as firefighters.
I think that is so cool. I noticed on your uniform here, you've got 5 stripes. Tell us a little bit about your 5 stripes.
So the 5 stripes that identifies you as the chief. So they're called either stripes, or you can have their stripes or trumpets. So the fire chief has 5 stripes or trumpets. The deputy would have 4. Battalion chief would have 3. An engineer would have 2, and just a a regular firefighter would just have one stripe.
Oh, that's really, really neat. We're going to move to the next video segment about the trucks and the equipment that the firefighters and first responders drive and use.
So another type of fire that we go to is structure fires. A structure fire can be a house fire, a garage fire, or a barn fire. Sometimes a grass fire can get away and get into somebody's farmyard and become a structure fire. So the truck behind me, the red truck, is our big pumper. So it holds 1,000 gallons of water. What we mainly use it for is structure fires when we need lots of pressure, lots of water real fast. The green truck beside me holds 500 gallons of water, but we can pump and spray water and drive at the same time. So with that, we can drive along the grass fires and put fire out as we go. And at the back, we've got a smaller truck, and it holds 300 gallons of water. And we also use it for grass fires, brush fires, wherever we can get closer with that truck, and we can sometimes get there quicker. So when we're talking about big grass fires, a grass fire that we were recently at, we used over 14,000 gallons of water. So if you can imagine how many times we had to fill each of these trucks, but 14,000 gallons of water is about like this. Your bathtub holds 42 gallons of water when it's right full. So we used over 350 bathtubs full of water that day. So it was a long day. We were out fighting that fire for over 10 hours. So it takes a lot of work. We're really tired when we get back. When we get back to the hall, all of the trucks, all of the hoses, all of our equipment has to be washed. We wash the floor, and we get ready just in case there's another call right away. So this is, we call pumper number 1. So this is an older fire truck, but it's still very good. It's still in good shape, and we use it a lot. We use this one mostly for grass fires and rural fires. So this one, the pump is mounted on the front. So one thing that we do, whoever is the driver of the truck is also the pump operator. So if you drive the truck, you have to know how to run the pump properly. The other people are dragging the hoses around, getting the nozzles set up and getting them ready, but the driver runs the pump. So the driver, when you get to the scene, you set the parking brake, you come up to the front, and this is where all the pump controls are. We can turn on the different valves, start the pump, we can adjust the pressure that goes to each of the hoses from right here. So this truck also has a nozzle mounted up top, so one firefighter can sit up on top and just spray water from the top of the truck. So we can pump while we're driving on this truck. The next truck is pumper number 2. So this truck is set up a little bit different. This truck can either drive or pump. It can't do both at the same time. So the driver gets out, sets the parking brakes, and then all of the pump controls are right in front of them here. So with this truck, we can run the bigger hoses. We have more water, a bigger pump. We can pump more water faster with this truck. So like I said, this truck we can't drive and pump at the same time, so it has to be stationary. This truck is also a lot heavier, so we don't like taking it into fields if we don't have to. We try to keep it on the road at all time. The other truck that we have, we call the brush truck. So the brush truck is just not much more than a pickup truck, but it's got a 300-gallon tank of water in the back and a fire pump. It's got a hose up top, so we can take that hose off. We can unroll that hose and spray grass fires. We can move around very fast with it. So it's really good for grass fires and brush fires. That's why it's called the brush truck. So this is our rescue vehicle. It's an old ambulance. We got it used. It's a multi-purpose vehicle here though. We have some fire department gear in there, or firefighter gear. We have medical supplies. It's a place where we can take people to keep them warm after an accident. We cannot transport patients, but we can bring them inside, take care of them, and keep them warm until the ambulance arrives. So in the rescue van, You see we have traffic pylons, we got fire extinguishers, we've got our breathing apparatus for when we're in a house fire or at a vehicle fire. We've got spare air bottles. We've got all of our first aid kits and splints and whatnot. And this is where, if you're at an accident, you might even be lucky enough to get a little teddy bear. So we keep all of this stuff in here. Our big first aid kits are up at the front. And in our first aid kits, we've got our stethoscopes, blood pressure cuffs, Band-Aids, air masks, all of that stuff. So when we come into your house, we will bring this, we'll bring our oxygen tank with us, and we'll ask you what the problem is, and we'll help as best we can until the ambulance gets there. After we're done a call, we have to take everything out of these kits, and in this toolbox we've got all of our cleaning supplies, spare gloves, spare masks, everything that we need. So we have to clean the whole kit up, put it back in the van, and get ready just in case there's another call right away.
Oh, those vehicles are great. I would love to drive in one of them. So when can a non-firefighter like me drive in one of those vehicles?
Well, we could arrange it so that it could be done, but we limit who drives which vehicles based on their training. So like I said in the video, if you are the driver of a pumper, you have to be able to operate that pumper and all of the equipment on that truck. So that is your job. As the driver, you are now the pumper operator, and you have to have full working knowledge of the whole truck.
Okay, I can only imagine. So which one of those vehicles is your favorite to drive and operate, and why?
Well, I like all of them. I mean, I like the old truck. That was the first truck that we had when I first started on the fire department. Now I usually will drive either the rescue or the brush truck. When I'm driving that then becomes also the command vehicle. So all of the communication with dispatch, the communication to the other vehicles and firefighters would go out of there. So normally I would drive the brush truck or the rescue vehicle to arrive first on scene. So that's typically what I do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that there's a difference between a paramedic and a first responder. So what can a paramedic do that a first responder cannot do?
So the paramedics, and again, we're not a licensed ambulance service, but a paramedic would be able to do things more than a medical first responder can do. One example would be medical first responders cannot give medications, and you know, the paramedics can do more things as far as hooking up heart monitors and just doing a little more in-depth patient care.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's find out about the gear that you wear. So here's the next video segment.
So this is our turnout gear. So when we come to a fire, depends on what kind of a call we're going to. If we're going to a grass fire and it's really hot, we'll just put on coveralls. These are fire retardant coveralls, so we'll wear these with our fire boots and helmet and gloves, but it'll still keep us safe and we can move around and not get overheated. If it's a structure fire or it's really cold outside, we'll put on our big turnout gear, and it's heavy, it weighs a lot, it's really warm, and on a hot day it gets hot really fast. When we're at a fire, we have to wear a helmet. So the fire chief's helmet is always white. So if you ever see a white fire helmet, that means that's the fire chief. The other helmets are yellow or red, sometimes even black. We also have jackets for cold weather. When we're out on the highway, it can get very, very cold. Sometimes we're at a scene for a long time sometimes. Recently, we were at a motor vehicle accident that we were out there for 20 hours. It was very cold that night, and we had to take turns going in and out of the trucks to stay warm. The boots are warm, but after that long in them, your feet still get cold. So we put on our turnout gear, and then we come over and get a radio. So everybody has to take a radio, and with that we can communicate with each other if there's trouble, if somebody doesn't know what they're supposed to be doing, or if they're moving to a different location. They have to tell the person in command where they're going and what they're doing.
You know, all of that gear looks really heavy. How much does the heaviest gear weigh? And also then, can you talk a little bit about the masks that you have to wear?
Okay, so the gear, I don't know that it's really that heavy. It's very bulky, but it would be, about 5 to 7 kilograms. If you have it all on, it might be a little more. If you have your breathing apparatus on, you might be in that 8 or 9 kilograms in total weight. But it is bulky, and it can be cumbersome and hard to move around in.
Okay, yeah, I can only imagine, so thank you for that. Well, our final video segment is a truck leaving the fire hall. I would imagine that you need to leave safely. You need to leave the fire hall safely before you can actually leave for the call. And I know that you said that you don't usually use the siren as you leave Hanley, as it can scare people, but that the fire trucks in the cities need to leave their fire halls with the lights flashing and the sirens blaring, so everyone knows that they need to move out of the way in a hurry. Do you leave the fire hall with the lights flashing so people around know that you are leaving?
Yeah, we do. So whenever we're going out on a call, we turn all emergency lighting on. That just indicates to people that we are on the way to a scene. We don't have the same traffic flow issues as in the big cities, so we'll use the sirens when necessary, but we try not to. Sirens can cause a lot of anxiety with people, so we only use them when absolutely necessary.
Okay, well, thank you. So let's just watch you leaving the fire hall. One of the things that I know you do is to try to practice at least once a month for a couple of hours. And besides the actual practice of working with the vehicles and things like that, what else do you do when you practice?
So we do a lot of practice. We try to focus on what most of our calls are. So we do a lot of work for the medical response. So we practice all of what we do as medical first responders. And then as firefighters, we practice a lot with extrication and tools that go with motor vehicle accidents. So we'll actually bring in old cars, cut them apart just to make sure that everybody knows what their different jobs would be during a call like that. We also do a lot of practice with ladders, the safe and proper use of ladders, ropes and knots if we have to lift gear up to high places. We do a lot of practice on spinal immobilization, and that falls into the medical first responder part too. And then we also do a lot of training on pumper operation and hooking up to fire hydrants and the proper knowledge of working pressures for the water used at firefighting.
Okay, thank you. So let's take a look at one of your practices now.
Just leave it the way it is, but either shift or mute.
Okay, can you pressure the nozzle up to 100? Nozzle 3 up to 100.
So when you're up to 200, there's pressure. When you're up to 200.
Oh, thanks, Les. Everything you shared with us today was incredibly informative. So now what we want to do is we want to move to the question and answer segment of today. And I understand that there are some questions waiting. Okay, so this is Max and Emily from Lloydminster. The question is, how many fire calls do you get in a month like September? Great question.
Well, actually, this year we were pretty lucky. I think we only had one actual fire call in the month of September, and it can vary because September is a busy harvest time in rural Saskatchewan. So, we might go out daily, weekly. It varies. So this year, like I say, we were very fortunate. Everybody had a good, safe harvest. So. Our call volume has been pretty low this September.
And I'm sure you're thankful for that. Okay, we've got a question from Gail. How much heat? Oh, good question. How much heat can your suit handle?
So the turnout gear, the main turnout gear can handle very, very high heats, like in several 100-degree range. That's why we have to be very careful when we put it on, that all of our exposed skin is covered. So you don't want to leave any bare patches around your face masks. You have to have your gloves on at all times. It keeps the heat out, but it also can trap heat in. So we've got to be careful, keep hydrated, and so yeah, it can get 300 to 400 degrees inside a structure fire, or higher possibly. So we have to be very careful that we have good quality gear, that the gear is maintained properly and put on properly.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you for that. I can only imagine what that's like. Okay, we've got a question from Steve. What are you most proud with regard to your accomplishments so far being a firefighter? What a great question.
Well, yeah, it's a great question, but it's a hard one. I guess the biggest accomplishment is just providing a service to the community. We do as much as we can as volunteers, and that's my greatest accomplishment, is just providing good professional service to the community.
Okay, thank you. And I know firsthand he does a wonderful job. I could tell you stories, but I won't. Okay, we've got another question from Leslie. One of the students asked, why doesn't the ambulance just come first? Great question.
So in our community, our ambulance service comes out of Saskatoon. It's about a 35-minute drive. So what we can respond to a medical call faster. So we can get there in perhaps 5 or 10 minutes. So we can provide the initial health care, assessment of the patients, and start doing some work with the patients. We can send word, give the ambulance people updates on the patient's condition so that they can better prepare when they do get to the scene.
Okay, and I know that he's had to land stars in the past too, and that's pretty incredible. We have another question from Evan. If we need you to come to our farm, do we give you our land location or the information on the new blue sign the RM put up by our driveway? Oh, interesting question.
That's a good question, but I would be prepared to give all of that information. The land location is the most specific. So if you have the land location of exactly where you are, that gives precision to where everybody has to go. The sign on the driveway is good. When they're driving down the road, they'll be able to identify that, and that'll help them too.
Okay, is that blue sign a new thing?
Well, our RM does not have that yet. So that would be, every municipality is different, how they indicate roads and mark roads. It's becoming more universal, but there's always new things coming.
Okay, that is great. Thank you. Okay, Leslie has another question. How long does it take to train, to become a firefighter?
So a professional firefighter, you could go to something like, I'll I'll use Brandon Fire College for an example. You could go to Brandon Fire College within about a 14 to 16 month period. You will become fully trained as a firefighter and a paramedic level 1. As a volunteer firefighter, or even the career firefighters, the training goes on throughout your whole career. You never stop training. There's always new techniques, new equipment to train on, always more to learn.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we've got one from Jacqueline. Jacqueline from Blaine Lake. Mr. Kruger, have you ever been hurt during a call out?
I have never had a serious injury on a call, fire or anything. Yeah, knock on wood. We are very aware of the situations that we're in. Accidents still can happen, but fortunately, I have never been seriously injured on any calls.
Thank goodness. Only for you, but everybody else. Okay, Patrick, how do you pump the water for the hose?
Okay, so we've got different types of pumps. So we could have a pump set up just to fill the tank on the truck, or we can hook up to a fire hydrant that will supply water to the truck. And then on each fire truck, there is a large pump that increases the pressure and volume coming to the hoses. So, typically we'll have the working pressure on each hose at 100 to 120 pounds pressure. And that's all the pump on the fire truck. That's its job to do.
Okay. I think we have another question coming up, I think. Here we go. Liz, how fast can your trucks go? Good question.
It's a good question, but so we have to still follow the rules and speed limits. The big pumper trucks, they're heavy. They carry a lot of water, a lot of weight. They're not really quick, but they typically will go highway speed. So, 110 to 120 kilometers an hour. The rescue van can go faster. We're not allowed to excessively break speed limits. We still have to follow the rules of the road. We still have to stop at stop signs. We can only go through a stop sign if it is safe to do so, but legally we still have to stop for stop signs and red lights, everything like that.
Okay, sounds good. I think we have another question coming up. Nancy, which is your favorite firefighter vehicle?
Well, my favorite ones are still the big pumpers. They're the trucks that do the most work. The capabilities of them are amazing. But I also like, the smaller trucks and the rescue vehicles. I don't know if I have a favorite, but they've all got different jobs to do, and they can all become my favorite.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Pretty neat vehicles. And from Paula, what do you do in a grass fire?
So when we get called out to a grass fire, the first thing we do is assess how big it is, the wind direction, the speed, what kind of fuel it's in. Is it in trees? It is in just grass? What the terrain is like. So then we'll set up a plan and attack the fire from the perimeters going towards the front. And, we have to decide, is there any personal property at risk in that? What is the risk of just letting it burn out? So lots of different things happen at a grass fire.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Well, that was our last question. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today and asking your questions. Great questions and great answers. And thanks, Les, for spending the time with us today and sharing with us all of the work that the firefighters and first responders do. We do appreciate everything that you do. So I just want to say thank you again. Bye, everyone, and be safe.